What's up? Welcome into the RotoViz Fantasy Football Report. We're back once again. Blair, Hasan, Kevin. How's it going, guys?
Doing good. Say we had some exciting performances today by some of our favorites and even some of our not so favorite guys.
Yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to talk Taysom. I didn't put him on the show sheet for obvious reasons, but I kicked off quite a discussion over on Blue Sky. You can follow us there now as well, about Taysom Hill and his the the multi-positional usage of his. But realistically, the issue that I have, at least with Taysom, is that for most of the offseason, the Saints had him as a quarterback, and I think he is a quarterback on Underdog, on FFPC, on MFL. None of these have you can't play Taysom as a tight end, but I think on Sleeper you can, and I think on a few other platforms you can. They all retroactively reversed it as right before the start of the season, right? So when the most of draft season is done, I think the Saints changed his designation, and now he is tight end. He had a massive performance today. And by the way, for full disclosure, I actually say this as a guy who is currently benefiting from Taysom Hill's explosion on a couple of my dynasty leagues on Sleeper, and I'm still upset about it, right? So it's just by and large, just one of those things. But again, Taysom isn't necessarily an all-star player anyway, so whatever. It is what it is. Guys, do we want to tell the good listeners and viewer, I believe, about what we're about what is transpiring in one of our FFPC leagues?
Yeah. Remind me of exactly the details of how this works. I mean, I think in both of our leagues we're still on the outside looking in, but
The
but
playoffs,
yes, but
but in one,
the amount of points we need is almost a tragic amount in a
yeah,
way.
it is. Last week we forgot to play a quarterback, and we lost our Jamar Chase lineup matchup. And I believe that the amount of points required to keep us to put us in the playoffs is very close to what we would have actually needed had we started a quarterback last week. So it's a very funny amount.
So actually, I just looked it up. We're behind by 30 points in that league, and Stafford only scored 13.6. So not quite enough to get us there, but
So not
would have
quite
helped.
enough.
Would have helped.
Hey! You don't know because we've still got Jamar Chase going right now.
And if he had heard that we started him in a league, that might have inspired him to play a little better, and he probably would have gotten to 30.
We also have, Stafford. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
We might get this the 30 out of Houston against the tee off against Cooper Rush. So again, the 13 would have been good enough, Just saying, we were trying to make this team get the three of us into the main through the to the FBG. Just saying, we have the talent to get there. It just might not happen this year, but stay tuned. Guys.
Actually, sorry. Those scores were based on what we did last week. Currently, based on what we've scored this week, we're third in scoring in the league. So maybe that is enough to get into the playoffs.
Oh, but could you imagine we would have had an even bigger amount with Stafford in the lineup now?
Yeah.
Every little bit helps, right?
Right.
It's exciting to somehow backdoor our way in. Nothing will ever come up to the, oh my god, what was the name of that running back in Miami that we played?
Patrick Laird?
Patrick Laird. Nothing comes close. Nothing comes close. Well, yeah, because I kept thinking in my head he's a 40-year-old CMC because that's what you called him. Nothing ever comes close to requiring 10 points
10 points.
Him delivering.
Well, yeah. I think what happened was we didn't play him, and he would have delivered.
No. We played.
Well, we definitely played him 1 week when he delivered, but we also benched him 1 week when he would have delivered.
Yeah, but I
Anyway.
don't think I look. I don't think the viewers and the listeners care about like like nostalgic things that have occurred with
I
us.
don't think they
What
care
they do
about
care about
Patrick
is
Laird.
Jerry Jeudy.
Oh, yeah.
He caught 6 of 9 targets for 142 yards and a touchdown against the Saints. This was the second highest receiving total of his NFL's career. I mean, largely thanks to that one massive 89-yard catch and run TD. He was, more interestingly to me, 1 target short of the team lead for targets. And just, Jeudy just seems to be fully healthy. And this pass-heavy, like Cleveland offense under Jameis Winston is exciting. So I guess my question to you guys is where are we on Jerry Jeudy rest of the season? Like, is he like a wide receiver 3 every week plug and play? Where are we at, guys?
So I have Jeudy at 11 targets, which would have been is the team lead. I think, man, this is a tough one because I was expecting bigger things from Cedric Tillman and kind of still am going forward. Although obviously I was high on Jeudy coming into the season, and I think this has always been kind of within his range of outcomes. So it's pretty exciting to see him finally do it. He was a guy I wrote up in the off season looking at things like open score, catch score, yak score.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how he performed in those metrics today, but when you get 142 yards, you almost have to be good at picking up yards after the catch. And only caught 6 of his targets.
No, wait, I was wrong at the top. He had 11 targets. He
That's
didn't
what I
have
thought.
9.
Yeah, 6 of 11.
Yeah, there must when that blurb was out, it must have corrected something.
Right. So that catch rate maybe is not, could be better, but still, this is a very encouraging performance, I think. Do the Browns have enough firepower to kind of keep this up? Like, they only scored 14 points today despite attempting 46 passes. What do you guys think?
I think they have enough. They have not enough firepower just to keep chucking the ball 40 to 50 times a game. So I think the volume's going to continue. Obviously, they say that big catch and run was big catalyst for that. And I still feel like Njoku's the top dog, and I don't think Jeudy per se is like a plug and play guy, but I feel happy. I feel comfortable, I guess, with the volume that really even down to like Elijah Moore's receiving. To put any of those guys in as like a flex, kind of as desperation. But I would be hoping that I have some better guys, some more consistent, or guys that I feel better about on my bench. I did pull up the target shares this is the Browns over the season. As you can see, starting in week 7, the red is Cedric Tillman, and he's kind of been coming through. But the dark gray is Jerry Jeudy, and he's, at least the last 2 games that they've had, has been either tied or leading the team in targets. So I mean, he is coming on. It's just anybody in that on the Browns is really going to get volume. It doesn't seem like they really care about running the ball anymore. They're just kind of done with it.
Yeah, and just as a heads up, like, we're entering the part of the season where we have some very heavy bye weeks. Falcons, Bills, Bengals, Jaguars, Saints, and the Jets next week. Week 14, Ravens, Broncos, Texans, Colts, Patriots, and Commanders are all on bye.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think there's a shot that, like, Tillman or Elijah Moore are on waivers in deeper leagues. But, man, you got to pick them up if they are somehow.
Be valuable, yeah.
Like, I mean, like, you just need to play someone who's like, I mean, it's not just like getting targets, right? Like the fact that you have like a gunslinger in Jameis Winston, like, you need these guys for that. Like, I mean, for better or for worse, you're going to be starting one of them in week 12. You're going to be starting them in week 14. It's just too many teams on bye. It doesn't matter. Now, should we be waiting late bye weeks heavier when drafting? Asks Joe King. Good question. I mean, realistically, it's hard. It's hard when you don't know what's going to happen, right? Like, before the schedule comes out. avoiding those guys. I don't necessarily know if you want to avoid them per se, right? Like, what makes the FFPC interesting is just, or like what makes it difficult is that these guys are like your week 4, like that's when the playoffs start, right? Week 14,
Well, I think the playoffs start in week 13, right?
week 13, and then 14 is a championship round in leagues, right? Yeah, and then you get the
Yeah.
15, 16, 17
Right.
sprint, right?
Yeah,
When drafting
that's
late
right.
buys mean nothing. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, joking. That
In week 11, they're crippling.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, when you're drafting, like you're telling yourself the story of I'm gonna be fine, right?
Yeah.
And then when you actually start like looking at it, I mean it is difficult, man. And like the thing is that like a lot of these players are like, I guess particularly managed. I don't necessarily know if I change my drafting style too much, because you still need to get there. You
Yeah.
know, like I don't know how much like I'd be like avoiding it, but like it's difficult to avoid in select cases.
Yeah, they're in leagues that have a playoff format, especially one that begins before week 14, you can maybe even make a case for loading up on later buys to kind of improve your chances of advancing to the playoffs. And then
Because you need to win earlier, right? And you need all your
yeah,
guys.
right. And
Well,
then
I
in the
mean,
playoffs, you just, it's a lot based on luck and just hoping for some big games anyway.
but I
I
mean,
don't
like
know. On
even
the other
now,
hand,
right?
yeah.
Like think about it like this, right? Like to like just as a pushback, like, you've got like the Texans with a week 14 bye, and you're like, I'm gonna get as much Nico Collins as humanly possible, and
Yeah,
then
right.
Nico Collins is like,
Well, that's the other thing, and the other thing that I do think makes a big point in favor of avoiding late buys, especially on best ball teams, is that as the season goes on, your team gets smaller as you lose more guys to injury.
yeah.
So having those players on buys in the later weeks when you have fewer healthy players can take you out.
Oh, without a doubt, dude. Like those
Yeah.
zeros that you start eating in your lineup,
Yeah.
they're so crippling, man. Like when you just see like a guy who is like on bye, you crack your starting lineup, and you're like, ah. And
I
you
mean,
just and like your team doesn't just like sink; it sinks like a stone. If
yeah.
you're in like if you're like in the hunt, right? Like if you're like in that like you know third, fourth, fifth place where you just need everyone's like within like 15 points of each other, it just really takes you out. Like
No,
it
that
doesn't do
didn't
anything
stop
beyond
me
that.
from drafting, like Zay Flowers, Nico, CJ Stroud teams, and then grabbing Josh Downs and Troy Franklin on the back end and basically
Oh, Troy
ensuring I'd
Franklin.
score 0 points in week 14. I still did that, of course.
Yeah, this year was rough too, because I mean, when I looked at those week 14 buys when the schedule came out, like literally week 14, like all my favorite players that I was hammering,
Yep.
like
Daniels
before,
too, week 14, right?
Yeah, I mean, just across the board, and
Yeah.
even like you said, even the under the radar sleeper guys, like all the Broncos, Bo Nix, when I was drafting a ton of, I was like,
Yep.
oh, so now I have probably 20 teams that basically have like 2 quarterbacks on a bye in week 14.
Yeah.
It was pretty rough.
Yeah.
Lamar, Nick, Stroud, Erich, May, and Daniels on bye week 14, says Joe King.
Right.
Of those, I am counting 4 good. No, I'm just messing around. We've got an Erich blurb. Let's get to it, right?
Flacco
Anthony
also
Richardson.
on week 14 bye.
That's right. Flacco. By the way, the guy who is currently cooking right now on Sunday Night Football, Quentin Johnson, and also the chef, Justin Herbert. Oh man, it is amazing watching this happen. QJ Slappies unite. I think all the QJ Slappies are right here, right now, right? All right. Back to Anthony Richardson. He completed 20 of 30 passes for 272 yards and a score in the Colts' narrow win over the Jets. He also had 10 carries for 32 yards and 2 scores. He had his first start since week 8. This is a new career high for passing. This 2 touchdowns on the ground. This was only the second one of his career, right? Like it was actually kind of nice, man. It's nice to see him do well. What's really weird though about him is like he's like elite at completing these massive long bombs, and not so much in the short game. I don't know, man. So I guess like wanting to get your guys' take. Like, are you trusting him again as a quarterback one rest of the season? Like, where are we at on like A Rich? Like, what are you at on like his value? Is it rehab? What to do?
I would say rehab. Yeah, it's still. I mean, I've been burned too because I've been somebody who's pretty, I guess, forgiving of or just kind of optimistic on his outlook. And even, I mean, just as far, I mean, earlier in the season, coming into the season, and he thoroughly just punched me in the gut amongst other places over and over and over.
Man,
again.
I am like an elite A Rich hater. Will one of you guys pull up his? Will one of you guys pull up his pull up the stat explorer? Or I'll do it.
I got it right here.
I think.
Awesome.
But I was just gonna say this even for somebody now. I'm almost trying to like go back against that in all the optimism, even everything that we heard about him, even during his time off. Oh, he's doing so well. He's learning from Joe Flacco. He's doing all the right things. He's growing, he's maturing, he's all this stuff, and now I'm just kind of to the point where I still don't know. now I'm like maybe too like timid on Anthony Richardson, you know.
Yeah. So if you one of you guys pull up his look at this season so far. Oh, just so like I think today's performance was that would be a quarterback one performance. I think it's about 30 points he had today. So that would be his best performance since week one. But look at that since week one, just abject, like just garbage, right? Like you're looking at a guy who's a QB3 or worse who is going as the QB5 in drafts, right? Like you had to pass on a lot of actual good players to draft like Anthony Richardson, right? Yeah. And I wonder if like the lesson here, or at least I wonder what the market's going to do, is they're going to actually be a little bit more gun shy on where they're pushing up QB ADP, right?
Maybe, but you still have the elite guys performing for the most part. You still have
not Mahomes.
Yeah, Mahomes is kind of the exception to that, but you still have Allen,
like
Hurts, Lamar.
Allen is Hurts is all right. Lamar is like CJ Stroud
today. Lamar was
like Richardson was a letdown, right? Like I'm just looking at underdog ADP. He was going at like at the end of the fifth, start of the sixth. So like you'd probably much rather have Kyle Pitts than like Anthony Richardson. You'd probably much rather have had Godwin than him or Dunze. Maybe. I don't know if he's good. George Kittle, you definitely want BTJ over him, Kamara over him. You probably want David Montgomery over him, right? You probably definitely want James Conner, JSN, Evan Ingram, maybe Najee, maybe, right? Like it's like this, like all the quarterbacks going there, like Anthony Richardson, Kyler Murray, CJ Stroud in round 6 have absolutely been pretty weak, I would say, for better or for worse, right?
Yeah, maybe you do see QB ADP.
Yeah, Joe King is right though. A-Rich isn't dead. Today was hopeful. And you know what? This is like kind of my fault because I saw A-Rich on wires in Superflex leagues. On Superflex leagues. Don't even it was crazy. On Super, and I didn't pick him up because I was like, no, I'm set. I had Drake May and Matthew Stafford and CJ Stroud. I am set. I genuinely couldn't find a guy who I'd rather I would want those guys that had A-Rich, right?
Yeah.
And then even in single quarterback leagues, I was like, I got my Stafford, I got Goff, and I got Caleb Williams, and I'm like, man, like Caleb Williams, I'm not really gonna start, but like I'd probably play Goff over him like rest of the season, right? And so like I didn't pick him up either. So
yeah.
like I was so confident in like A-Rich not necessarily having this 30-point upside that I just like gave up. And
I hear that maybe he's not dead, but at the same time, like, can you think of another successful quarterback who was benched in his second year for a guy like Joe Flacco and went on to have a successcill
career?
To have like a fantasy relevant career.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I saw Sam Sherman basically tweet that like Anthony Richardson is like Justin Fields / Trey Lance 2.0. And I told them, like, look, that's like disrespectful to Justin Fields. at least Fields offered you something, right? Like with Anthony Richardson, you're drafting him at QB5 and you're getting like six points.
Right.
Pretty much. You could have taken in tight end premium. You could have taken Brock Bowers instead, right? Like,
yeah, right.
Yeah.
No, Fields doesn't. I mean, so Richardson. I don't know. Maybe he's like a better deep ball thrower than Fields, but he doesn't give you the kind of fantasy upside, I think, with his legs that Fields does, even though he's just as athletic.
But man, everybody, like, the thing is that like everybody is like trying to find Lamar Jackson 2.0, man, and Lamar is like, he's so good, dude.
After the game we saw on Thursday, do you think Daniels has a case for that mantle, or are you kind of
Lamar?
Yeah, or are you?
Let's hold back a little bit.
Yeah,
let's
a little bit not as enthusiastic about him.
I look, man. Like I would say that like it's unfortunate, but like Jaden Daniels and RG3 have a good case, right? Lamar is like an absolute, just a beast. Like, the only one that will come close, like Lamar, I think Lamar and like Josh Allen are like on their own as far as that kind of dual threat kind of goes, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it seems like, and Richardson's more of like the mold of Cam Newton, where Cam Newton wasn't killing it with the rushing yards, he was killing it with the touchdowns, and he has that same sort of build where Lamar can put up 100 yards pretty easily, and the same with Jaden Daniels. And even like kind of just going forward, pulling up the strength of schedule app. I mean, really, you have to factor in Anthony Richardson rushing. As a quarterback, it might be a little different than most quarterbacks, but his schedule's pretty rough going forward. If you get up to like, week 16, week 17, he finally gets some favorable stuff. But until then, it could be tough sledding for Anthony Richardson on top of, what we already have seen him do this year as far as kind of fall short. So
I guess
the Lions are not easy, dude. The Lions are not an easy matchup.
He falls flat against Detroit. They bench him, put Flacco in for 2 games, and when Flacco gets destroyed by Denver, then Richardson comes back in and gets the easy matchup against Tennessee, right?
and it'll save us from like starting him, or whoever has him from starting him, right? Anyway, but like to that end, like I think it's still, I don't know. I'm excited. I'm optimistic. I'm hopeful that at the very least, I'm hopeful that he won't tank Downs and Mitchell. Right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because I know Mitchell did well with Flacco last week. I haven't seen what he did today, because it seemed like their connection, the Richardson AD Mitchell connection was like probably the worst connection of any quarterback wide receiver I've seen in the NFL.
Yeah, just a bunch of missed calls, just dropped balls, missed calls.
And he only had 2 targets today, one catch for 33 yards for AD Mitchell, so not great.
Yeah, I wonder whatever happened to that guy who traded like for Kareem Hunt last week. I was thinking about him earlier today, because like they were talking about like Pacheco like being a full go or whatever. Pacheco didn't play. And then I was like, I wonder if that guy's still like nervous about Pacheco, because like again, it was like Rappaport like reporting it, right? So like at that point, you're just thinking like, man, Pacheco's career might be over. Rapp's never been right about much. I'm still very fondly remembering the Antonio Brown and Buffalo era, which never happened. But speaking of guys who are in an ascending era, Brock Bowers got 13 of 16 targets, 126 yards in the score. So this was like his like prop lines were like all free money. I think his like receiving total was like 50.1 yards, 51.5 yards. I think his like receptions total was like 5.5. Anyway, so like the Raiders kept things close, and then they started taking on water, and then they finally just like Gardner Minshew got loose, right? Basically, all that means is they're just going to use Brock Bowers as their like elite receiver, which I mean, it's what he is. Bowers did all of his damage in the final 2 quarters. He lit up the Dolphins for this like entire stat line, and I'm optimistic that like these negative scripts that the Raiders are going to find themselves in lends itself to a lot more like Bowers next week. Like, I guess this is like probably a redundant question, but like, is Bowers like the TE1 like rest of season and also into next year? Like next off season, like he should be going as TE1, right?
Is he like TE1 of all time?
Ooh, above Gronk. Not yet ready to anoint him above Gronk just yet, but man.
Like fantasy tight end. I mean, when you're talking about a tight end premium league, he's doing things that even Gronk didn't do with 13 catches. I mean, that's
I know, man.
Yeah.
Like that's
that
like
was
free. Like
that's
so
the rookie.
nice.
That's the tight end reception record in the game for a tight end rookie tight end ever. So
there you go.
Like,
And I mean, I do think you're right about these negative scripts maybe helping him. We do kind of see that a lot of times it's like receiving running back will still be able to have a good season even on a bad team because they're just getting a lot of dump offs, like a safety valve. That's the way Bowers operates on the Raiders, it seems. So I'm pretty optimistic that he's, the touchdowns might not be there, but if he's getting 13 receptions, which obviously you can't expect that every week, but if he's getting
man,
7 or 8 receptions, that's pretty nice.
man. But like at what price is too high for him non-tight end premium, right? Because we've already heard Rico mention the Sacrilegious thinks he's probably like a tight end one in like probably like worth
He's
the
probably the
101
101 in
FFPC, right?
Yeah.
But like I'm talking non-tight end premium. Where is he going? And like 105? Like, is that crazy?
That's tough. I do think the tight end premium helps him so much because his value is so
like,
tied to
and
volume.
like you want to avoid getting Sam Laporta, right? Like or Trey McBride. Like I don't know, man. Like, but again, like so, like Sam Laporta is actually a good prospect. Trey McBride is a little bit dicier. I don't know, man.
I think the thing is
like,
that
I have serious target competition next year either, though. That's what I'm thinking.
That's true. The thing is that in non-tight end premium, the touchdowns do become more important. So that maybe hurts him a little relative to the other tight ends. He'd still be the tight end one, I think. But
so what I'm hearing is that you're saying that like we need to just like treat this offseason for like elite tight ends as like a bit of an anomaly, sort of pare back expectations, expect them to go like in the second round or like.
Oh yeah, well I do think you see the tight end ADP
like just float back, right?
Kind of correct a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, because like I think underdog ADP, Sam Laporta was going at the 3-4 turn, right? So what you're saying is then that like Brock Bowers should be going what, like in the middle of the third, late third.
Oh man, he's a steal there though.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, I think one of the big things too that's going to happen. I mean, we expect to probably happen this year is the Raiders are going to upgrade the quarterback with probably a rookie. Not who's to say if it will be a significant upgrade, but that's probably going to get factored in as well. Everybody's going to say, first of all, Brock Bowers did this with Aiden O'Connell / Gardner Minshew, but now he's got quarterback XYZ in here now, so that's probably going to give him an extra bump on top. So I think early second, like 1-2 turn, even in non-tight end premium is probably where I think the hype is going to get really high, especially. And we also have to remember too that today was Scott Turner's first day as offensive coordinator, and he got 13 targets where Jacoby Myers only got 6. So like that was the big thing before, is Jacoby Myers was getting a bunch of targets. Now it's probably they took the bye week to say, hey, just throw the ball to Sam Laporta every single time. So hopefully that's what we see, and his numbers could get even more inflated kind of as the season goes along, if this is kind of the beginning of a trend.
Man, Sam Laporta is just like the biggest scam, man. I feel so bad.
Kevin
for me
says 2-3 turn. Oh, different Kevin.
Oh.
Kevin Tompkins says 2-3 turn in the chat. And I think probably
That feels right,
even,
right?
yeah, maybe that's right, but I feel like even that is too cheap. Like I
You think
like
it's
the one.
cheap?
I like the 1-2 turn price. I'd be taking a lot of
1-2
Bowers if he was
turn.
in
Dude,
underdog.
that's above like Drake London and Nico Collins and Devon Achan and Saquon Barkley and oh god, I don't even talk about some of these other guys.
Well,
And
it's
above
not going
like
to be
Cooper
above
Kupp.
Barkley next year.
Yeah.
Dude, there's a bunch of the second round was a real wasteland on
All
underdog
right,
this year.
middle of the
Mhm.
second. Would you do like
Yeah.
205?
2-3 turn feels right, man. Here,
Maybe that's right.
God,
I know
do I
I'm going to have a
share?
lot. If he's at the
Yeah.
2-3 turn, he's going to be my most owned tight end.
The way that I'm thinking about it though, so last year in underdog, where was Kelsey getting drafted? He was drafted like middle of the first. And now are we going to say, like if we know, obviously, I guess it's a different entire draft landscape, so it's not necessarily apples to apples depending on talent. But like on underdog, tight ends have been known to go that high, and after Bowers probably is going to have the best rookie tight end season of all time. Like I would be surprised to see him go. I mean, that's why I say like 1-2 turn, because we've seen guys, elite guys go higher than that. So I say it obviously, like Hasan was saying, different environment, different players. But at the same time, if he's at the 2-3 turn, I say I'm going to have a lot of them, and hopefully it's not like Kyle Pitts was 2-3 turn after his rookie season, and I think Bowers is way better.
He still owes me money from that. Yeah.
So all those things, like Blair said, if he's going to the 2-3 turn, I'm going to have a lot of them. So hopefully he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, but like, look at how bad the second round for like just wide receiver ADP was like awful. Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't lived up to the expectations. Drake London is sort of fading. Nico Collins, you know what happened to him. Deebo Samuel, we're going to be discussing that later. Cooper Kupp missed time. Jalen Waddle, God, he's such a scam. Chris Olave probably also not very good. And Devontae Adams, the only like good wide receiver who you'd want to have out of like the second round were like Nico and Malik Neighbors and probably Drake London, I think. At cost. But at the 2-3 turn, look at that. You don't want to have Brandon Ayuk at all. Like Brandon Ayuk was like terrible. Get out of here, Brandon Ayuk. What are you doing hanging out at the 2-3 turn? That's Brock Bowers' rightful spot.
I guess you do actually see a lot of the guys who are currently in the first probably maintaining a lot of their value.
Except for Garrett Wilson.
Right, except for Wilson, maybe
Maybe
for
also
Hill.
Tyreek.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
other than that, and you see Saquon moving up. I bet you see Achan moving up.
Mm-hmm.
Nico moving up.
Yeah, you see
So,
Nico going in the first. You
guess-
see Saquon and Devon Achan in the
But
first.
still, like, how many of those guys
Rashid Rice
do
is
you
going to move into
really
the second.
prefer Bowers? I mean, how many of these guys do you really prefer over Bowers? Like, once it gets to,
I think once you're looking at a DK Metcalf decision, then it's probably Brock Bowers for me,
oh,
right?
it's easy Bowers for me there.
Right? Yeah, because like you're gonna see like McLaurin make a massive leap. You're gonna see Rashid Rice make a massive leap. And then it's getting really tough, man. Jaden Reed, you're gonna see make a massive leap. Pickens, maybe a slight bump. Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
Brian Thomas Jr., you're gonna see make a massive leap. Godwin should probably rehab some value. JSN should make a pretty big bump.
I don't know. It's hard to say.
I don't know if I
last
take
year's ADP, but
yeah, I know. It's just but like we know these guys are moving up right in the world, but at the same time, like the Waddle, Olave, these guys are moving down. Debo is moving down. Kupp's moving down. Devontae is going to crater.
like
I think Kevin Tompkins nailed it, dude. 2-3 turn feels about right. And I feel like that's probably like I'm not gonna say it's a smash, but I'm probably gonna still have a lot of him there.
I guess the question is, like, even if you think of Bowers as just a wide receiver, and you're assuming 7 targets for 70 yards and maybe a little bit less than half a touchdown per game, like that's not that much different than what you get from Drake London.
Yeah, dude, next year, like that's the thing. Like even like here, Stewie says expecting ADP around 25 and we'll just draft him every time. Yeah, I think next year is just going to be us stealing from each other on Brock Bowers. Like I think that's just what it's going to be. It's just going to be a question of who likes Bowers the most, and that's it. And I mean, like, look at him. He's so affable looking. Kind of looks like a friendly little accountant, right? Like, yeah, it's just going to be us stealing from each other. Like, I would genuinely not be surprised to see his ADP settle at like the middle of the second, though.
Yeah, middle of the second seems kind of about where I like
And that's,
value, but
by
I
the way,
would
that is
sometimes draft
crazy.
someone else.
That is crazy because you would have thought that would be where you'd see Sam Laporta this year, and it's not. Right?
Yeah, that's a good point.
But like, it also is a completely different situation. So I'm pretty excited, man. Like I am excited to see what happens. I don't know how long all of us can keep his ADP that low, but like, it's gonna be interesting. We gotta move on though from Bowers. There's another guy who you mentioned, Drake London. He got 3 of 7 targets for 61 yards. London was really they kind of held in check along with the rest of the Atlanta offense, and the Falcons just gave up. The bench started in the fourth. All right, like Darnell. The interesting note that I have from this game is that it looked like Mooney might have sustained like a hamstring injury. So like, is this real? That wheels up for like Drake London? Is that the siren call?
I hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Mooney obviously has been drawing a lot of targets, and hopefully those go more toward London. I think hopefully get a lot of those going toward Pitts, but I do think that can't rule out a lot of Ray McLeod targets, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Probably a lot more Bijan too. I mean, it
right.
seemed like they just throw down to him more than like it probably target pecking order would be London, Bijan, Ray McLeod, some guy off the street, then Pitts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. Where did Pitts end up today as far as target? When I looked early, he had like one target.
Man, this is such a difficult game. It's such a difficult game to like take anything out of, right? Because like the Broncos just
he ended with 3
on
targets, only caught one of them for 9 yards.
Yeah.
But I mean, only 27 attempts from Cousins. You also had Penix in there throwing the ball, getting sacked.
Penix looked like he actually threw it with zip though, which is kind of nice.
Yeah, I didn't see this game. I don't know how.
By the way, Penix might
underwhelming, but
Penix might have been the reason that like Rome Odunze was drafted like as high as he was. Like, I don't necessarily know if Rome is very good.
You don't think it's the other way around?
No, I think it might be Penix. Bulk has really struggled as a pro. McMillan hasn't shown much of anything, even when his time has come. And like Odunze has like who would you rather have, Odunze or Brian Thomas Jr. in real life?
Right,
BTJ, right?
Yeah.
Like Odunze or Lad McConkey in real life.
That one's closer,
right?
Odunze
or was he right? It gets a little closer, right? Mm-hmm. And speaking of Xavier Worthy, he got 4 or 5 targets for 61 yards and a score. And all of his production came in the first half, which is so weird because like their offense completely dried up in the second half, right?
Yeah.
Like Worthy almost had like another one long massive catch. He just didn't get both feet in bounds.
Right.
This is his biggest game since week 4, and he's still competing with Nuke for targets. I wanted to get your guys' take. Like, did he rehab any value? Can you like start him with any confidence?
I mean, he led the team in targets today and in yards and in receptions, at least tied for receptions and targets. I think that's a good sign. He did catch a touchdown. Man, I wish I had more confidence in this offense because it does seem like part of what's holding him back is that just Kansas City is not playing well. Mahomes is not what we expected. And part of that, I think, obviously, is this probably is one of the worst kind of supporting casts Mahomes has had in a while. But you would
Man,
hope
he's
that
just
Worthy
he's like
would.
winning Super Bowls with everything, though.
Yeah,
Like
that's
he's
true.
just
It's not like they were a lot better last year.
yeah.
Although Rashee Rice being healthy would have made a big difference for this team.
Oh God, yes, and for my final bottom line too. But
Yeah.
I think one thing is kind of like a double-edged sword as far as getting a ton of work early, because it's okay, like the teams, they do their scripted plays to start the game,
Right.
and Worthy's a huge part of that. So it's like, okay, he knows he's getting the ball. We're gonna focus on getting him the ball. He does well, but then he disappears for the rest of the game. So it's like almost okay, we know what we're doing. We're gonna make sure we get him involved. But then there's always the thing about like earning work and earning targets, where if you're not earning them, like great players, I feel like should just earn targets. We shouldn't have to, scheme up ways to get them the ball necessarily. And
Yeah.
he's not doing that. And that's the scary thing. It's like, okay, cool. And then we've seen him do this, a few times this season where he's super involved early. He seems like he's going to be involved. He's getting a lot of targets or end arounds or whatever. And then he just kind of poof and vanishes. And that's the sort of stuff that's kind of like scary for me. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
we'll get him, he's not earning when it comes down to when it's, I don't want to say like when it's wide open, he's not getting the work. It's like they really have to make sure they're intentional about getting the ball, and star players generally just are going to earn that volume no matter what. So I'm a little still worried. It's good to see. I had to start him in one of my leagues today because like I had so many guys injured on buys. So I was happy to see that he did well, but at the same time, I'm not super like optimistic or super confident in him going forward. Like, oh yeah, I'm just going to keep throwing him in.
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
You'd also think that it wouldn't be that hard for someone with 4.2 speed to get open and earn targets, especially from.
Oh, come on! But it is hard for those guys. Look at John Ross.
Well, yeah.
I don't see him anywhere.
I mean, yeah, it is hard for those guys, but well, I don't know. You'd think that
he's
they would be
apparently
able to...
on the Eagles.
John Ross still in the league.
He's on the Eagles. On the practice squad.
I guess my question is there something schematic that's a problem here, or is it just a problem of not having another player who can really keep the defense honest? So defenses are able to take away. Defenses are able to take away that deep threat. I don't know.
It's just being short, I think. Like I was joking with Rich Hribar over on like Blue Sky, and it's like given like the recent run of like our highly drafted small wide receivers, like the old big wide receiver versus small wide receiver arguments are back, baby. And also wide receiver production and early breakout age, and when you declare, it's all back.
Yeah,
it's all happening. It's all happening again. Everything we do, we'll like do again and again, right? Like diamonds a flat circle. So it's exciting. We already have the arguments, and we can have them. We can just keep reliving this out.
If you think of Brock Bowers as a big wide receiver, then big wide
and
receivers
you know what
is winning.
And you know what? Tough scene for people who didn't think he was a wide receiver. tough scene. The toughest scene is on me, who like as a bit stopped drafting him because of that picture that came out. and what did I know? It was just it was just like the GOAT with Rob Gronkowski. Like I didn't understand.
Nobody realized how big Gronkowski was until then. Is what we actually.
Yeah, exactly. But also no one like understood that like Rob Gronkowski came to pay respects to who he knew would be the greatest of all time, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, it's things happen. Speaking of greatest of all time, Juwan Jennings got 10 of 11 targets for 91 yards and a score in the Niners' Week 11 loss to the Seahawks. Jennings functioned as the Niners' clear-cut passing game alpha. He hoarded targets all game long. 6 of those came on third down. He caught all 6, converted 4 first downs in the process. Like he had like a highlight play that occurred on this like successful 3rd and 11 catch where he dragged like 4 Seahawks defenders. Like, what on earth, man? Like, this is a team that paid Brandon Ayuk, has Deebo Samuel, George Kittle goes out, and Juwan Jennings is, like, the guy. Why were any of us clicking Deebo Samuel's name and Brandon Ayuk's name when we could have just waited until the 14th round and picked
McCaffrey's
Juwan
name.
Jennings? Yeah, exactly. Christian McCaffrey's name, right? Like we could have just waited until like the end and picked Juwan Jennings. You know?
Do we have Jennings performances queued up that we can see, like how consistent he's been? Because I know he's put up these kind of big games a few times this year. How confident, I guess, do you feel starting him in any given week is the question.
I'm pulling it up right now. Give me a sec.
Yeah, here we go.
I mean, I started him. This is just this year. So I mean, I started him in one of my best teams this year over guys like Xavier Worthy and all that. I mean, I feel good about it, even though he only had really this one big spike week here. Just a lot of the advanced stats stuff that I've been doing. He's converting, like upwards of, I want to say 80% of his air yards. He's like, his efficiency this year is crazy. And even when I wrote it up in the advanced stats article this week, it's just like he's just has a connection, I think, with Brock Purdy and like I said, Pierce only got 2 targets, and he seems like he was like the biggest direct competition to him right now. And obviously Kittle wasn't there, but I don't think Jennings is going away. I think he's like kind of legit. I think he's going to be kind of legit. He's going to be. I feel more comfortable starting Juwan Jennings than like Jerry Jeudy or any of those Browns guys. Maybe save Cedric Tillman. I think he's going to have like a big role the rest of the year, even though he might go up and down a little bit just because there's so many people on that team. But I mean, I like Jennings a lot, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to argue with 11 targets when, Purdy only attempts 28 passes. That's basically almost a 40% target share, right? More than Deebo had, more than McCaffrey had. So, yeah, some of that I'm sure has to do with kind of how the defense is playing it, but Jennings obviously has been able to convert on these opportunities. And if it looks like Kittle is going to miss more time, perhaps, or if something else happens and Jennings is going to get that opportunity, it does seem to be, even if the consistency is not there, these performances are somewhat predictable in that when the 49ers are down a man or two, Jennings steps up. So
here's just a little blurb that I had in the last week's advanced stats article for wide receivers. So just among their wide receivers, so Kittle's not involved in this, and then ran more than 15 routes because Cowing, like on his like minimal routes, it like outscored him. But so Jennings currently leads all 49ers wide receiver. So in targets per game, routes per target, drops, he's the best. He's best yards per route, converted intended air yards per game, intended air yard conversion percentage, blah blah blah. Like basically all his evasion, everything. So it just keeps going and going. So like he's legit having a good season, and especially when you like look at the evasion and all that sort of stuff, like that's with Deebo and Samuel like included.
Right.
So like across the board, he's having like a really good season. I think it's just we don't look at him that way. But I mean, it's not like he's got volume and he's got production and efficiency. So I don't think he's going away. That's why he's the guy that I'm just going to continue to kind of roll with and not be afraid to slot into my lineups.
Another guy. Sorry, Blair, you going to say something?
Well, I was going to go to another guy, but it's a guy who also played in this game.
Let's hear it.
Is it time
Is it JSN?
now? Of course, it's JSN.
Of course, it's JSN.
Is it time now to anoint him the wide receiver 1 in Seattle?
Ooh, we're getting close, dude.
We're not there already.
Not there yet. give Metcalf just a little bit more time to return from injury, right?
Yeah, and I mean, right.
I am liking this usage. I am liking this usage a lot.
Definitely. I think against San Francisco, maybe you see kind of the splits between how they play the slot versus how they play out wide are maybe a little more extreme than some teams. So a little bit of an advantage for Smith and Jigba there. That showed up in the passing game matchup rater as well, where he was kind of clearly the top receiver for Seattle. So between those two factors, obviously, it wouldn't surprise anybody if next week Metcalf comes out and leads the team in everything. But I mean, we've seen this a few games in a row now from JSN where he's earning targets, he's turning them into yards, he's kind of finally becoming the receiver we've been saying he was for the last 2 years. So, I mean, I'm pretty excited.
Yeah.
I'm excited too.
Yeah. And I think that they'll flip flop, kind of like what you got. I'm not ready to anoint him wide receiver one there yet, but at the same time, I mean, you can't really argue with the production he's had over the last few weeks. I'm really interested. It's not in the Monday review tool yet because that game isn't in there, but I really want to know what his ADOT was today because, I mean, at least he was averaging 11 yards per reception. I'm wondering if he was consistent because I know his ADOT has climbed specifically to where he's like respectable. He's not at like 10, I don't think, but he's usually around like 8 or so.
Right.
Or at least averaging that much for this year. So I'm interested to see where he's at today because a lot of the times when I saw him, it was intermediate to like 5 to 10 yards is where I saw most, but I was also watching multiple games and doing some other stuff at the time. So
yeah, I didn't see him get really any deep targets today, but he did have a few in kind of that 5 to 15 range. So yeah, it would be interesting to see for sure.
Last guy, I think, who has rehabbed his value, probably firmly a start for quite some time. Cortland Sutton got 7 of 8 targets for 78 yards in the Broncos' Week 11 win against the Falcons. He led the Broncos in all receiving categories, but somehow was one of the guys who just didn't score a touchdown today.
Mm-hmm.
Guys who scored touchdown today: Troy Franklin, Marvin Mims, I think little Jordan Humphrey, right?
Big Jordan Humphrey.
Yeah.
That's right, yeah. Sutton had a 23-yard reception in the first half, and he was kind of quiet in the second half, especially because they just didn't have to do anything, the Broncos. But so this is sort of like a twofold question, right? Like, is he back to being a top 24 option rest of the season for you guys? And what are we doing with him and Bo Nix next season?
Crickets.
Yeah, no one all speak at once.
I mean, right now it seems like the ascension of Nix and Sutton is both kind of started at the same time. So I think you kind of have to assume that he's gonna. You have to kind of assume that he's going to continue to go. He's been a wide receiver 1 the last 3 weeks. I mean, obviously we'll probably won't get there today, but I mean at the same time, I feel like with the way that Nix is playing. It does seem to have kind of a striking connection with Lil Jordan Humphrey as well. Or I don't know, maybe it's the offensive scheme that way. But
yeah,
I mean, yeah, as for somebody that played so bad at the beginning of the year, I'm pretty happy. I don't have a lot of Sutton or really have him in any managed leagues, but if I did, I would feel pretty good about throwing him in lineups.
Man, I mean, yeah, it's hard to argue with the way he's played lately, and obviously his performance has been a big part of kind of Bo Nix's ascension. So I remain a Cortland Sutton skeptic in a lot of ways, and probably will not be starting him in large part because I do not own him on any teams. But
so, are you like a Bo Nix? Are you a Bo Nix believer?
I'm a Bo Nix believer and a Cortland Sutton skeptic, and that makes me losing money this year.
I mean, it's fine. It's fine to be losing. I mean, the whole thing is that Sutton's actually, I don't know, Nix might actually be good. He might be better than I don't know. Has Caleb Williams shown enough? I mean, he's still good. He played well today. I mean, that entire team needs an overhaul, but under further notice, do you it's probably Jaden Daniels, then Bo Nix, right?
Yeah, that is an interesting question. If you're redrafting this quarterback class, obviously Daniels number 1. Is Nix the clear number 2 based on the way he and Williams have played.
Like Knicks is actually
Recently.
really, really improved.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we kind of talked about this last week too.
Mhm.
Like Williams after last week was bad enough that we were talking maybe you prefer Drake May over him. Maybe you even prefer JJ McCarthy over him.
Well, like, yeah, JJ McCarthy remains like the big wild card, right? I don't think you can redraft his class without seeing what JJ McCarthy brings to the table. And like I'm kind of optimistic that JJ might actually be the quarterback too, right? Like all he has to do is just deliver the ball on time, on target. There's a lot of good talent there in Minnesota.
Yeah. Williams wasn't particularly bad today, but he wasn't really that good either.
Well, he just also hasn't lived up to any of that preseason hype, right? Like
Right.
realistically, like he doesn't do well against good teams.
Yeah.
Most of his production at USC came against bad teams, and a lot of it.
No, that's true. And I mean, today, like Knicks was awesome today, obviously. 307 yards, 4 touchdowns against a Falcons team that I think is actually pretty good, especially defensively. Like, this is not a team that most other guys
Nah,
are.
today they were just
on.
flat all around.
Today
dude.
they were bad.
Flat.
Today they were bad.
Yeah, but they have this like in their range of outcomes at any given like level.
Yeah, but I don't want to take too much credit away from Knicks because I do think he played really well and probably. Well, I don't know. What more does Knicks have to do before you think, hey, you know what? Actually, he's the QB1 in this class.
A lot more, man. Jaden Daniels, dude, did so much well to start, you know?
Yeah, now he's kind of falling off just when Knicks is ascending.
He's working through that rib injury, right?
That's true.
Yeah.
But I don't think you can blame all of it on that. Like, he's also going through.
Well, yeah, I mean, he's also got
to.
Yeah, but he also got to contend with like having Cliff Kingsbury, dude. Like,
yeah.
Like I think my disdain for Kingsbury is well documented. Like he doesn't necessarily run the air raid as much as he runs like the despair raid, right? Everyone calls it the horizontal raid, but it's like, come on, guys, it's like right there. It's like a pun, right?
Yeah.
But
one of the exciting things
stat I saw where like Daniels hadn't completed a pass more than 6 yards downfield
since like the rib injury, right?
Well, I don't know if it was since the rib injury. I think that Hail Mary was after the rib injury, but yeah, like it was like a whole half last game where he was only throwing short, and I mean, obviously great for Austin Eckler, but not so much.
Hey, that's like a feature, not a bug of the Cliff Kingsbury offense.
Well, that's kind of my point.
And one thing about Bo Nix, especially the last 2 weeks, is he has done nothing in the rushing game. So it's at least he's proving that he can do it as a passer. And then we also know that. I mean,
last 4 games, Daniels has 4 passing TDs. Sorry, Joe King said that. That's
so
a tough one.
But it's just as far as Knicks goes. It's nice to see him ascending. I don't think he's close to Jaden Daniels just yet. And I don't know. Maybe I'm just an idiot for saying this, but I mean, I still think it's inconclusive. I still want to see more from Caleb Williams before he Bryce Young him.
No, for sure.
I know. I'm with you, and it's like difficult to Bryce Young Caleb Williams right now because he's shown a little bit, right? Like, and like he also is like really, really hindered by like this like team. They're like hesitant to like actually change like head coach OC, but like at the same time, the team also went all in thinking this year they were going to be good. So it's like tough scene.
Yeah, I mean, one good thing about Williams today is he was running. Like, I don't know if
the
new OC just said like, if you don't like what you see, just take off, because literally he was just looking, checking.
He had 70 rushing yards today, right?
Yeah, he looked fast when he was doing it. Maybe because he just was like. He didn't look indecisive at all, so he just took off. So he looked good doing it. So that could definitely add something to his profile too.
But yeah, that'd be pretty nice to see. It's something to watch out for.
For sure. I think the Packers defense is also not.
They're also very good.
Not a cakewalk. Yeah. I'm certainly not ready to give up on Caleb Williams, and I mean he's been a lot better than Bryce Young was in his rookie year. Like,
Mhm.
you talk about Bryce Young rookie year, the next season he's basically undrafted in best ball leagues. Whereas I still think Williams is 13th, 14th round probably.
Yeah, and then we got to
yeah.
look at the AB too. It's just, remember Bryce Young's supporting cast versus what? This is like the Hall of Fame compared to what Bryce Young had last year. So
Yeah.
it's sad what he's doing, obviously, but let's just hope that maybe it's more Shane Waldron than Caleb Williams at this point. Even though I don't know how true that may be.
All right. Anything else we need to talk about? I do kind of want to see what's going on with this game where the Chargers are up 24-6 against the Bengals. Haven't been really paying attention to that besides the score. So something's
Bungles
going on
are bungling. Yeah, the second half's about to start. If you guys wanna, if you want to call it, and
yeah, I don't know if I want to see it, but I haven't checked the score at all, so I don't know if I have a lot of Bengals all over the place. So
yeah,
bungles. Yeah, just in here.
We didn't talk the game that I did watch the most of, which of course was a heartbreaker in a lot of ways.
Oh yeah, we didn't really talk about it.
I don't know. Is Pittsburgh legit?
I think that's a Mike Tomlin question that you're asking, dude. It's not a Pittsburgh question.
I guess so.
Like Mike Tomlin has he's a man's kind of a wizard, right? Like
George Pickens, I think, is the person that this question is really about. But yeah. Tomlin is kind of a wizard to be able to get this out of Russell Wilson.
Well, more than just getting this out of Russell Wilson, like we're not giving him enough credit. Well, yeah, we're also not giving him enough credit for like he prevented the whole world from knowing Antonio Brown and Le'Veon Bell were like batshit crazy, right?
That's a good point.
That's like step number one, of his magic, and then after that, it's like, all right, and then they get it. Yeah, I think Pittsburgh is pretty good under like Tomlin. I also, Joe King says Steelers are dangerous. I think the one thing I did notice that was actually kind of sad is is Justin Tucker training? Like, do you think he might be getting washed?
Yeah, he's got the yips, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, that's what
I think we cursed him, dude. I think we drafted him like really early, and I think we cursed him.
Maybe. I don't know. This is new to me. I'm not familiar with this Justin Tucker.
I'm not ready for this Justin Tucker, dude.
Yeah. This is making me question a lot of things.
Question how close it is an eye fall off,
Right.
As if I'm not already incredibly washed.
It's bringing up existential thoughts, right?
Yeah, exactly. It goes beyond fantasy football, man. This is that's where we're at, dude.
Oh my gosh.
Hall of Fame kicker as first bad game. I planned my funeral. Joe King is right, man. Dude,
I wish it was his first bad game.
I know. No, he's missed some XPs and stuff too, dude.
Yeah.
It's just you see it happening and you're like, no. And it's what does it mean for me?
After the second field goal miss, they cut to Harbaugh on the sideline. He's like, I knew he was going to miss that. That's what his face looked like.
Oh, no.
It's bad. Anyway, George Pickens is kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Where's he going next year? Because he still plays for the Steelers.
I think a big part of that is who's going to be their quarterback.
Yeah.
I don't think either of those guys are under contract, and just depends on which way they go with that. Do you think if they make the playoffs or maybe get to the second round of the playoffs, or how far do you feel like they have to go? I guess should be the best way to phrase it. How far do you feel like the Steelers have to go before they sign? They say we have to have Russell Wilson back.
That's a good question. The way they're playing, if they lose in the first round, will they be like, oh, we were really close, we should bring Russell Wilson back and go for it again? Is that good enough? I don't. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
I
a
don't
good
know,
question.
man.
Yeah, there's a lot of uncertainty in that situation. But George
Right.
Pickens, I think we all understand why Pickens wanted Russell Wilson in there so badly. He was like the cheerleader for Russ Wilson.
Yeah,
He's the one who told the media that Russ Wilson was starting to go with Stephen Tomlin. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so I mean now, but it's showing, and he's looked like a beast, man. He's
I
fighting
know.
people. He's just, I don't know. He's a fun guy to watch. Very
It could have been
fiery.
even better. He had that one catch where like he was trying to get the ball out of bounds and forgot to put his 1 foot down before he stepped out.
Yeah,
So
I
it was
saw
like
that.
a mental lapse that would have made him have an even bigger game, but
Yeah,
still
he's a
pretty good.
stereotypical Steelers kind of head coach sort of
Exactly.
guy.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know if we know how to put it any better than that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Pickens, like I guess given the way he's played, he's probably tail into the second round maybe next
Yeah.
year.
I'd say
Pickens?
like third is what I
Yeah.
was kind of feeling.
I don't know, man. That's a little bit rich for me.
Well, yeah.
It's kind of hard to pick without laying out the board in front of it. That's kind of like the hard thing. It's just like, oh,
Yeah,
once you
that's
lay
like
out
a
it
the-
tough
is.
one.
It
Less
is,
than
but if
25, 2025 hard reset.
you're talking like 2-3 turn for Pickens, I mean, I thought he was too expensive this year at
Oh
you
yeah,
know,
but that's a
fourth round. Pickens was too expensive, but I think I maybe was wrong. Okay, on that, let's call it a night.
Time for some reflection.
I'm gonna still be thinking about like Justin Tucker, man.
Yeah, that's right.
It's like I'm hoping he comes out like next week and gives us 25 points. That'd be so sick.
Yeah.
They gave us 6.4 today.
They were playing in Pittsburgh. Is
Yeah,
Pittsburgh
I
a
mean,
notoriously hard stadium to kick in?
it's a very tough stadium
It's
to
kind of
kick in,
weird
actually.
in a lot of ways.
Yeah, like I guess Acrisure. Yeah, that's right. That's the new name.
Right.
It's a tough one to kick in. I think it's one of the toughest ones, especially in November, December. Especially because like it's right off the river, and so like when gets colder, the ground isn't necessarily like, I don't know. Like I've heard like anecdotally like kickers say that it's a difficult ground. It doesn't feel the same
Well, for
than
years
having
there
like the
was
open end. Sorry.
right. Yeah, no, for years there like every team would complain about having to play in Pittsburgh because the turf was so bad.
Like especially in like November and December because like Pitt plays there as well, and
Yeah.
like the turf just gets beaten up.
Right.
And so it's like and it's also it's a difficult, I don't know, stadium kick in. So
I'll take any explanation to explain away this game.
yeah, for not for like the Ravens, but for like Tucker, right?
Yeah, right.
Like the Ravens themselves did pretty well. Zay Flowers clearly dropped a couple of like should have got those situations.
Yeah, a lot of penalties too. But anyway, anything else we need to talk about before we call it a night?
Yeah, we can go and get back to this game second half, and
yeah. I'm just curious now. I mean, 6 targets. Okay, Jamar Chase is doing all right. Like he's the only one who's doing okay.
T.
We need
Higgins
more
ain't
Chase
all
Brown
that.
though.
We do need more Chase Brown.
Will Disley, 73 yards.
Will Disley doing it? Will the
Who does
thrill?
that help? Does that help any of us?
Absolutely not.
Me in one league.
Disley was the cover boy for Neil Dutton's tight end streamers article this week. So if you're
That's why I played him in a tight end premium league.
If you're not already paying attention to Neil's tight end takes, you got to get on that because there are a lot of weeks they have turned out pretty pretty good.
He's really good at that, man. It's helping me. I needed him in a tight end premium super flex league, and he is at 19.3 tight end premium points.
There you go. Nice. All right. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Be sure to rate and review, like and subscribe, all that good stuff. And You can still, I believe, get a discount on a RotoViz subscription if you're not already subscribed. Although if you're not already subscribed, I don't know. What are you doing? Anyway, yeah, that'll do it for us. We'll talk to you next week.
Later.